I just bought a Sony FX6, and honestly, that wasn't really the plan. But a few days ago, there was a moment where I realized I need to act now. Otherwise, I'm going to have a problem. Hi, and welcome back to FilmZeugs. I just bought the Sony FX6. It's 2026. I'm actually a Canon shooter, so why would I do that? I've talked about this before, the bigger project we had last year. We shot that on two FX3s. Robert was using the less stripped down FX3 on a gimbal, and I was using an FX3 rig that I built myself. I already made a video about the rig. Just a reminder, this is what it looks like. And honestly, it worked pretty well. I still think it's one of the best FX3 rigs you can buy. No, you can build. But for several reasons, I never really fully got comfortable with the FX3. I've been shooting with it for almost a year now, and I know the camera pretty well. I can work with it, I can get the results I need, but it has limitations. And because of that, I've been thinking about getting an FX6 for a while, because it would fit our workflow better. At the beginning of the project, we actually discussed whether it would make sense to buy an FX6. In the end, we decided against it and shot everything on our two FX3s, which was a bit of a pity, but it made sense at that time. Now things have changed. We have a new colleague in the studio. We're basically three companies working together in one space, and he owns an FX6. So I tested it together with our FX3s and realized something. What I always thought is true. The FX6 feels much closer to my Canon cameras. The features, the design, the way you work with it, it just fits my way of shooting much better than the FX3. So yeah, I've been thinking about this for a while, but it never really made sense to buy one. Until recently. We've been doing more projects where we shoot on FX3s, sometimes as a third camera next to my Canon cameras. And these are usually fast-paced productions. And the people in post-production have mentioned a few times they would prefer getting either only Sony footage or only Canon footage. For me, that's not a problem. I have enough Canon cameras. But these are not my projects. And the person hiring me wants to shoot on his own cameras, which makes total sense from a business perspective. But the problem is, with the FX3, I feel limited. I know I could do better work if I had a camera like the FX6. That was always just a thought, until I actually tested it. I borrowed the FX6 from my colleague, used it on a shoot, and realized, yeah, it would really make sense to have one. Now let's talk about money. If I'm just hired as a cameraman, and everything is provided, I only get my day rate. That's it. But if I bring my own equipment, I can charge for it. So the idea was, what if we use two FX3s and one FX6, and the FX6 is mine? Then I can charge for the camera on top of my day rate. That means my client doesn't have to pay extra for equipment he already owns, but I still bring value and get paid for it. We tested this setup and it works. But borrowing the FX6 all the time doesn't make sense financially. At some point, I would have to pay for it anyway. So it makes more sense to own one. And there's more. We are planning projects where two FX6 cameras would be ideal. So having a second one is a big advantage. And then there's the rental side. We rent a lot of equipment here in Vienna, but it's much easier to rent out gear that actually belongs to me. So now I also have an FX6 for rental. And then something happened that really pushed the decision. My colleague's FX6 stopped working. It just wouldn't turn on anymore. It's now in repair for a few weeks. And suddenly, we had shoots coming up where we actually needed an FX6. So I bought one to bridge the gap, and because in general, it just makes sense. Now I have one. And for the next few weeks, my colleague can use mine. So he helped me out before. Now I'm helping him. Fair deal. So why do I prefer the FX6 over the FX3? First, the monitor. I hate screens that flip out in the back. I like having the monitor further away, further forward, actually. Because when I hold the camera like this, I can see something. Also, I'm over 40. I can't see anything on that tiny FX3 screen anymore if it's too close to my body. And with the monitor in the front, you can still see what's happening around you. You're not just staring down at the screen and missing the whole scene. Second, electronic ND filters. No screw-on filters, no swapping filters all the time, just perfect. Third, buttons. I love cameras with physical buttons. You can change things instantly, no menus, no digging around. That's a huge advantage on set. Then, the grip. You can adjust it to your liking. You can remove it and you can reposition it on your rig. Way more flexibility. Audio is also better in my opinion. Yes, it's on the handle, but I still prefer it over the FX3 solution. You also have an MI shoe on top, so you can easily add wireless audio, even multiple channels. And then, battery life. Bigger batteries, external power, timecode in and out, SDI, all of these small things, they add up and make this camera much better to work with. And honestly, I should have bought it earlier. I've had it about a week now and I'm really happy. I was never a big fan of Sony, mostly because of the colors. But they've improved a lot and this camera is just great. I really like it. And of course, all of my cameras have names. And so this one got a name too. My Canon cameras are named after friends. And now the Sony cameras, we're naming them after How I Met Your Mother. So this one is Lily. Welcome, Lily. My colleague's FX6 camera is called Marshall. So now we have Marshall and Lily. This small camera won't stay small for very long. I'm going to build a shoulder rig for it based on my Canon C200 setup, and I'll show it to you in the next video. So there's one more thing I want to know. What do you think about the FX6 in 2026? Was it a good decision to buy one or a bad? Let me know in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you haven't already. See you next week. Bye!